Oh, oh. Gosh. Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome along to the Compassion and Wisdom in Action conference. This session has been organised by FDW to celebrate and share universal education programmes and to help us all develop our compassion and wisdom. I'm Lorna Forsyth, and I've been granted the task to help introduce our speaker for today. Today, Denise will be sharing her latest resource, giving an outline of Roots, Shoots, Blooms, which is a resource of activities to do when working in a community garden for groups or grandparents with grandkids, nurseries, all similar settings. But really to get people outside and to connect. You will also get the opportunity to experience some of the activities for yourself. And we'll be going into breakout rooms and sharing back with the group and ask any questions that crop up for you. Denise also hopes to share her book, Rhythm of Virtue, with us, showing how to apply 16 guidelines to so many areas of our lives. And would like to consider creating a network for sharing if there's a will to do so. So how can I capture all that Denise is or does? Wow, well, diversity seems to be a key thread that weaves through all that Denise does in her life, exploring rhythm, music, movement, and spirituality for 50 years, beginning with piano at the age of 4, printing a book of poetry in her teens. I mean, Denise went on to gain a Master's of Science in Mechanical Engineering, hoping to save the world with solar energy, leading numerous projects before moving on to create programs combining natural science, music, and art. Her life essence for self-exploration leads her on to study yoga, Tai Chi, and Buddhism at Kadamp Center, where Geshe Gelik handed her a 16 guideline booklet. Immediately it resonated with the non-religious approach to such a comprehensive ethical framework, and she became a founding member of the 16 Guidelines Advisory Group. She served on the UE Core Curriculum Advisory Group. She's instrumental in creating 16 Guidelines resource for children, Ready, Set, Happy, the first UE app, 3 Wishes for a Meaningful Life. She's an author of Rhythm of Virtues, a resource for adults. She has 2 websites. She's conducted the eye-opening elder interviews, 16G calendars. I mean, the list goes on. I don't know where she finds the time or the energy, but that heart to enable people to be supported. You know, she facilitates 16 guidelines level 1 and 2, over 200 programs at a nature centre. She teaches Sunday school for 10 years using 16 guidelines and continues to teach music. Needless to say, Denise is passionate about creating and sharing fun resources and experiences to enable the sharing of ancient wisdom through stories, memes, comics, movies, videos, apps, songs, all for daily life use. I had the pleasure of being involved in the Me and White Supremacy group with Denise, and her willingness to inquire and explore vulnerabilities enabled me to really reflect and question my honesty at connecting at a deeper level. Today, Denise will be sharing her latest resource, giving an outline of Roots, Shoots, Blooms, a resource of activities to do when working in community garden for groups or grandparents with grandkids, nurseries, and similar settings. So you'll also get the opportunity to experience some of the activities, which I've already said, for yourself and share back with the group. So I'm going to hand over to Denise Flora. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorna. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, great. Thanks, Lorna, and all the moderators that have been working this week, taking time to put together introductions, and our visionary organizers, our talented tech people, so appreciated. We have so much confidence in them. and the service-minded translators. I have so much respect for the work that they do, and the other presenters who I've been learning from this week. Feeling very much gratitude. And even the technology developers, how amazing is it that we can connect over the distance without burning travel fuel? This is a gift. It's really magic to me every time it works. And each of you who are here who've made the time for this moment to happen. Today, what I'm thinking to do is to give some, technically I'm presenting for 40 minutes, right? I told my sister, I really want this to be a present, not a presentation, a present. So that's what she said, a present, not a presentation. And so what we're talking about is root, shoot, bloom. Okay, root, shoot, bloom. And what it is over 160 meaningful activities that can be done outside, probably with children, with almost no supplies. That's the heart of it. A root is the part of the plant that's under the ground. The shoot is the first part that comes up, right? And the bloom is the fruition. It's the result. And so the parallel idea is, if we build a strong foundation, we make a start, we keep going, we get transformation. The idea to realize the potential of this precious life. So this is our root, shoot, bloom. And I'm thinking to drop just that little short definition of what it is into the chat. So let me do that. Test this out, make sure we can communicate here. There you can see. Okay. So I want to welcome each person who is on this call, because this is really going to be a back and forth conversation. I'm hoping at its best it will be. There will be some motion to make, nothing too drastic, some activities to try, messages back and forth in the chat, maybe some reaction emojis shared, opportunity to collaborate, to comment, to question, and to engage. However, if you are not in a space to be super actively engaged today, if you've been up with a sick child, if you're listening while you're doing the dishes, or for whatever reason you wish to keep your video off, you are most welcome here as a full participant, first-class citizen. I've been doing that myself all week. We can still communicate. One of the things I recently learned is, even if our video is off, we can give reaction emojis down at the bottom. For me, it's the last one on the right. And you can give back and forth feedback even if you need to keep your video off. So let's try this. Let's see if I come here. I'm even going to do this myself and show you. Let's see if we try this together. I'm going to invite everyone, even those with the video on, turn it off for just a second. Stop your video and share a reaction. You may pick any of them. Just put one there and give me an emoji. And yes, I see some popping up there. Almost everyone. Yeah, so you can see that even the folks who have their videos off, you can still see some emojis popping up. And here's mine. There you go. I'll come back to you. All right, so we're communicating, people. You've heard that said. We're communicating. Okay. They go away after a little while, so you don't have to proactively take them down, the ones in the top row. All right, we already learned something. So now I want to try a little something with the chat. I'm calling this something I just made up. It's called Sleepless in Seattle. Okay, or another way we can communicate. I call it Sleepless in Seattle because it's about how we are and where we are. We used to have those old advice columns where someone would present a problem and they say, signing it, Sleepless in Seattle. So here's an example of how you might put that. First, you want to check in with how you're feeling. How are you? And where are you? So, for example, I'm going to put something in here for a chat. The question is, how are you? Where are you? And my examples I might put for me are grateful in Apex. Apex is the name of my town. Or I might say, let's see, did I share it? No, I didn't share it. There it is. Okay. I might say, not native in North Carolina, right? Because where I'm sitting, it's an ancestral borderland for 3 different native peoples, the Sioux, the Tuscarora, and the Saponi people. Or I might say, I'm exhausted in the United States for all that's going on. Okay, so you can put just something about how you are, or just something about where you are, or you can put both. So I invite you to put something in the chat about how you are and or where you are.
Says disabled.
Laura is encouraged in Aberdeenshire.
Denise, can I interrupt for a minute?
Sure.
My chat.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I heard my check
The
and
chat
then
is disabled.
Chat is disabled, yes.
For,
My
chat's disabled for everyone except for the hosts. So I don't know if you can do anything, Angela and Michaela. Chat. It says chat is disabled.
So we're not communicating with the chat. Is there something we can do about that? It's enabled now. Fantastic. I'm glad we checked. Thank you, Michaela. Intrigued in Wandsworth, Victoria. Now you have another opportunity. How are you? And where are you? All right, and it's enough. I am here now, It's different times for all of us. For me, it's early morning. All right, good. So this to me checks in a little bit with right from the beginning what Lama Yeshe talked about doing, which is for us to bring our mind where our body is, right? So we've thought a little bit about where our mind is, shared where our body is. And so for me, this is in itself a kind of universal education activity. Something about how whatever we're doing, whatever we're learning, whatever we're leading, whatever we're teaching, to try to bring something in more meaningful to that. That to me is what universal education is, to try to bring in something about how everything is connected, about how cause and effect works, how we perceive things, about how everything changes. So this is a way for us to work with our perception by realizing, we were feeling that before we noticed we were feeling that. We were here before we remembered we were here. They're all opportunities, to my mind, for us to step out of autopilot and to live a more piloted life, more intentional life. So I want to try another example of showing you what I think universal education is. Okay, I'm going to share a screen. This is a bit new for me. I just got software that would let me do this very recently, so this is a new thing. I'm going to share some sound for you, if this all goes well. Okay, you should be seeing a piano now. Are you seeing a piano? Yes, I see Angela nodding yes. Okay, so this is an example of, I teach music lessons. I don't know if you're seeing this chat. Let me move it out of the way in case you are. And so one way I might bring universal education into that teaching space is if I'm showing someone, and you hear these notes? Yeah. So if I'm going in order up, all of the positives, all of the sounds going from here to here, from here to here. This is a major scale. And in the major scale, it sounds a little bit happy, a little positive, right? Sunny, we say sometimes. But if we start somewhere else, it's all the same notes, but this one is minor. Sounds maybe a little bit sad. Maybe a little bit, sometimes people think scary. So it's a very different feeling. But if I am playing this piano from the bottom to the top, and somebody walks in while I am at this note, they're going to perceive sort of a happy sound. Their mind will be oriented towards the note they first heard, and it'll sound sort of happy to them. But if someone walks in when I'm at this note, they're going to hear, or even if that same person walks in at a different time, they're going to hear, sort of have an orientation towards the sadder sound. And so if I'm teaching this subject, I can bring out the point that it may be that two people, or even the same person at a different time, may perceive the same thing outside of them, but have a very different internal experience. And I can make the point that both of those perceptions are equally valid, even though they're different. And so I think this is, one example of how we might have a universal education message happening, no matter what we are speaking about. Okay, have I successfully stopped sharing the screen? Fantastic. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for your feedback. Okay. Another example that happened for me, I think it can really be whatever we're doing where we can bring this in. For example, yesterday I had a broken pen. I don't think I will bother sharing the picture of the broken pen. I had thought to. But all of these pieces were in the bottom of my purse, and I pulled all of the pieces of the pen out, and I was trying to figure out how to put them together. And I was struggling, which was a bit embarrassing because I have a master's in mechanical engineering. But I was having trouble putting this pen together. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do? Okay, I tried a bunch of things. It wasn't working. So finally, I was just about ready to ask my husband for help with putting this pen together, right? And then I thought, I know I have another pen that's just like this pen. And so I got it out and I thought, I'm going to see how this is put together. And I took apart the other pen. Instantly, I could see how this should go back together. So I put my old pen back together. Everything was great. And I thought, this feels a little bit profound. I know there's a universal education lesson in here. What is it? Right? And I started to think about it. And I'm sure you might come up with other ones. The one that I came up with was role models. I could have finally figured out how to put that thing together. There were only 3 or 4 pieces, but because I looked to the role model of this pen that had already solved this problem, I was able to more quickly get to the result I was going for. Right? So I think there are lessons everywhere. So the rest of what we're going to do today, now that I've given you sort of a little bit of an idea of what my idea of universal education is to present this resource, Root, Shoot, Bloom, which is some activities for using outside, mostly with children, mostly with no materials. And I will give you some opportunities to try some of those activities that are in there for that environment. And at one point, we'll have the opportunity for breakout rooms for one of the activities. You don't have to participate with that. If you're intimidated by the breakout rooms, you can stay in the main room where I will be. If you go into the breakout rooms, you can leave your video off if you want. In that case, it might be nice to put some reaction emojis in for your partners or to give some verbal feedback to them. You can choose in the moment what you do, whether you want to participate or not. And you can leave at any time, come back to the main room. There'll then be time for feedback and questions at the end. If at any time you need a physical break, you need a drink of water, to take a video break, please do so. It's not rude, it's self-compassion. We've been hearing about that all week. So take care of yourself and rejoin when you wish. You're welcome. This is for you. This is a present. Take what you find useful. I would rather have you here than not here. So come and go as you need. Now, Lorna didn't mention, and she was correct not to, about my experience of leading these activities in community gardens, because I don't have any. Okay, so when I was a child, my church grew potatoes. We dug those to give away. I participate in some other things locally. I've done hundreds of programs at our local nature center and Sunday school classes for young middle school age kids for a decade on 16 guideline subjects, but not in community gardens. So my specialty is drafting universal education or 16 guidelines activities in creative ways for different locations and audiences. But many of you will know more than me about what makes sense for your participants, and certainly at your own locations. So consider this an offering that you can pull from, adapt, modify, add to, the framework that you can use. I think I saw earlier that my friend Mickey Jo was here. Mickey Jo, I'm going to say just a little bit about it. She helped me some with Root, Shoot, Bloom. She's an environmental educator here locally at a botanical garden. So I'm hoping that she'll be able to be around. I know she has some family obligations this morning, but I'm hoping she will be around to answer at question time. Do you want to say hello, Mickey Jo? If you wish to unmute and give a shout out, you can. I'm glad that you're here. All right, so, and if there is anyone else here who is already working with children, maybe even outside, maybe even with 16 guidelines, if you want to, yeah, thank you, Mickey Jo says greetings to all of us. If any of the rest of you want to list what you're currently up to already, I've made the mistake in the past of forgetting to ask who out there knows a lot more about this than I do. So also otherwise engaged with a similar audience or subject. So please feel free to post that in the chat at any time. And if there's any advice you'd like to share there, then you can share it in the chat at any time. And also, especially at the end when we're asking questions, you may want to chime in. So please feel free. I need to change my chat there, so I'll be speaking to everyone. All right, so why did I write this if I haven't been working in community gardens? Well, in the summer of 2020, I joined an online 16 Guidelines Level 1 course. And after that, we could participate in Building on the Basics course, the BOB. And there was an online one that Craig Mackey was offering out of Canada. And at that time, during the lockdown, hanging with my universal education people was a great balm for me, a great refuge. And at the end of that course, we talk about how we're going to take these ideas into our communities. And one person in our small group wanted to use these ideas with a soup kitchen. So I spent 2 days drafting a list of ideas of how you might engage a local community in that, how you might have the teenagers decorate the room for each of the subjects, etc. Another person wanted to work with seniors, and I had already put together, with Michaela's help, the elder interviews, which you can download from the FBCW site, based on interviews I'd done with my mother related to the 16 guidelines. All right, and then the third person, who was Venerable Amy Miller, wanted to use 16 guidelines. She was considering using them in a community garden. So I thought, well, I'll spend a little time, I'll throw some ideas together. Well, a year later now, 160 activities, now we're ready to share. So I think I will drop in the chat. In fact, I'm going to ask Michaela if you would please drop in the chat the link to the elder interviews. Whenever anyone sends me a private message, I have to switch back to everyone. So, okay. Some of the activities will require some simple materials, but there are going to be 8 on each subject, so you should always have something that you can do with what you have at hand. And as you probably saw recently released, they have taken, Michaela has taken out one of the activities from each of the subjects that are in Root Shoot Bloom and designed a taster that we can also access. Yeah, thank you for the link to the elder interviews, which is in the chat now. And if you'd also put the one for the taster download, I would appreciate that too. Okay. So if you want to get the taster, it's about 18 activities. And for the full Root Shoot Bloom, it's going to be about 160 activities. And I'm going to give you the way to get that also here. Just give me one moment. Here we go. Let me share this to everyone. All right, so there's the way to get the full document is to write me. I've given you my email there. And also there's a place for public conversation about it. There's the page for that too. It's a Root Shoot Bloom community page. All right, so here's my goals for today. 3 things: to let you know what Root Shoot Bloom is, for you to be able to state that to someone else. Okay, and here's a reminder what it is. Over 160 meaningful activities to do with children at community gardens or other outside spaces. Okay, so it may be that you can use them at a nature center, at a grandparent's backyard, or in parks. The second goal is to let you try some of these activities yourself. We'll do that next. And finally, to let you know how to connect with others to continue this conversation for support and for collaboration. And I had just put in the chat the link to the Root Shoot Bloom community page. And also I put in the link for the Rhythm of Virtue book. Lorna mentioned that it's activities for adults. And if you're interested in that, you can find more information at the Rhythm of Virtue. That's a WordPress link. Okay, so let's try some of these out. So the first one, we're going to do a little settling. So this is like what we would do at the beginning of one of the sessions, right? So this one is called snake breath. Okay, snake breath. And it starts out with a big breath in and then a slow exhale like you're blowing out a bubble. You can even pretend you're blowing a bubble. Now let's make us like a snake. As long as you can. In general, the idea is to move from outside our body inside. Okay, we don't say that when we're presenting it. So first, outside, the air is vibrating, receiving our sound. So what does it sound like when I do this? Then we notice, hey, that vibration goes into our bodies too. So where do we feel that vibration? Where do I feel that? You can check it out. Where do you feel it? Then I think, where is that sound generated? Oh, my teeth are touching. My teeth have to touch to make that sound. Can I make that sound without my teeth touching? Not really. No, I can't. Maybe you can. Oh, and I never thought about this before, but where do my teeth touch? Everybody's teeth are different, right? They're unique. Does it touch on my right side, my left side, the middle? Where is it? So it's an investigation, right? For me, it's on the right side. Yeah. Okay. So maybe you want to put in the chat, like, where did you feel that? Where did you feel that in your body? What's your tongue doing? What do you notice? Okay. If you have any reaction, you can put it in there. We'll talk about later on our reaction to each of these. Some felt in the jaw, some felt in the teeth, some felt in the cheeks. Yeah, so everybody feel a little bit different. All right, so I like this particular exercise. Gives us an opportunity for a longer out than in breath, right? But we're not really focusing on the breath, so maybe a little bit less triggering. We're really thinking about the sound we're making. Tongue is pointed. Ah, okay. So whoever thought about what their tongue was doing before when they were making a sound or a sound, right? So it's a new way to be mindful at the beginning. Okay. So another one I'm going to try with you right away is called jazz massage. And for this one, we're using our hands. It's particularly good when, you could do that snake breath anywhere with any child or really even adults. If they're playful, I've taught lots of Sunday school classes to adults and they love to play. So Anyway, this one is with our hands, so it's particularly good for when we're doing something with our hands, like working in a garden. So this is often there's a script in Root Shoot Bloom where we have words in quotes, and so I'm going to read this script the way it's written there, just so you can see an example of what that is. We will use our hands to help in the garden today, an offering of time and effort. Hold your hands up, spread your fingers wide. We're celebrating the work to be done by these hands. We can celebrate that with a wave, with jazz hands, or with a clap. Right? So clap once really hard and capture that energy and rub, 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 warm your hands up. Good to do on a warm day. Also, before you older folks are playing piano, right? We use it for that too. I always do it with my students, feels so good. And then take the warmth from the middle and massage it out to the ends of your fingers. Both hands. Enjoy the feeling. It feels good. Feels good to me. If you have a cut or something, maybe it doesn't feel good to you. You can feel the warmth in the center. You might feel the honest roughness on the surface if you've been working with your hands. You might feel the circulation inside, the tension release. All right, when you're done, when you're ready, hold your hands up again. Do they feel any different than they did before? Yeah? Victoria says yes. Mine are a little bit tingly. They feel kind of energized, ready to work in the garden maybe. All right, so at any time today, if you feel, anxious, uncertain, uncomfortable about anything that you're being invited to do, you can always come back to one of these. You can come back to your snake breath. You can come back to your hands. The next one I want to share with you is called Pretty as a Picture. And it has to do with the power of visualization. So at the beginning of a session with the children, we might do first our mindfulness, bring them to their body. Then we might set a motivation or intention. This is from that category. All right. So if they're very young, we might just say, what are we trying to do here today? Why are we trying to do it? And how are we going to help this happen? It may be just a few simple questions. Or we might go into more depth with an actual visualization, right? So let's pretend for a moment we've stepped into our community garden or our park or our backyard where we're going to plant some flowers or something. And we might say, in our garden, what is our intention? Well, we intend to plant some fruits or vegetables. What's our motivation? We don't want to be hungry. We don't want other people to be hungry. So we're going to make some food. We're going to share it. So let's visualize. Can we imagine? What will it look like when this dirt has all of this food? And then we're going to be able to offer that food. All right, so we can visualize. Along these lines, for you here today, each of you actually in our gathering then, let's think about what your goal is. What is your intention, your motivation for engaging with this material? Do you already have an idea about what your successful, full garden would look like? I invite you to put anything into the chat that you want to help you concretize your own vision of what you want to come from this. All right, a lot of ideas about sharing, a lot of ideas about connection, getting in touch with our bodies, our hearts, magic and love. Okay, so next I'm gonna share with you a little bit about the document itself so you can see what it is. All right, so this is a page from Root, Shoot, Bloom, and I think it's really the heart of the document. Can you see a table? It shows the 21 sessions that are included. For each session, there is a nature or a garden theme, right? It might be soil, it might be roots, butterflies, the water cycle, seeds, something like that, weeds. Then there's, for each one of those, there is a 16 guidelines subject. You've been hearing a lot about 16 guidelines this week, but just to give an overview, if this is your first exposure, that middle column shows 4 categories of how we think, act, relate to others, and find meaning in life. And then within each category, there are 4 specific virtues, like, for example, for how we think, humility, patience, contentment, and delight or rejoicing. I have paired up one of those themes with one of those subjects to create a session. And there are 21 sessions altogether because there are 16 individual guidelines. There are 4 wisdom themes. That makes 20, plus 1 for mindfulness is 21 sessions. You might only use one of these sessions. You might use one session, and because there are 8 activities for each one, you might use them over multiple meeting times. When we have this sort of conceptual playground of a subject that's technical or scientific or hands-on, and also a subject that's a virtue, we get this playground where we can come up with some extended concepts. And it might give you ideas of where to share activities you already know. So it's a framework. Just like the 16 guidelines is a framework to talk about the virtues, this particular table gives you an idea of how the activities might fit in, or activities that you already know where they might get placed in here. The ones we've done so far have been mindfulness and intention setting. So the previous page here shows, we can sort of ignore this first left column. The middle has to do with what we do during the sessions, right? So we've done some mindfulness things and we've done some motivation and intention. Then with the time that we have left, I'm going to share some of the presentation or discussion kinds of activities that would be based on one of those session combinations. Within that, we talked about just now that there's a theme and a subject. The theme, that's a natural science, and the subject, which is more the virtue piece. Then within each one of those, there'll be starter questions to get the conversation going. You can choose from those. Might just use one, might use up to 5 or 6 out of the 10 that are there. Then there are experiences that we do in the garden. And then there's some summary ideas of what to take out and carry away from each session. And then some little echo phrases to ring in our ears as we leave. Finally, at the end, there'll be reflection time for them to figure out, what did they learn? What do they want to remember? What do they want to tell someone else? And then a dedication piece. I'm going to stop the share there. So we're back. That's the general outline. What's in there? So let's see here. We've got just a few minutes left before we want to do some breakout. So let me give you a few from the contentment group. All right, so I just picked it randomly. There won't be time to do all of it, but it'll be good enough. That's the lesson of contentment. we'll try some and I'll tell you about some, and then we'll have some time for you to discuss it in your small groups. For contentment, it's associated with the idea of roots, right? So the themes that are explored there have to do with the roots of plants, the kinds of roots we eat and might grow in a garden, the access to clean drinking water that's so important for us and for our plants. Resilience, to bounce back because we have a solid root. How needing is different than wanting. And how being well balanced has a calming effect for us. So an example of a starter question would be, do plants need water or want water? Do people need water or want water? And that might be all you might say for the younger ones. But for the older ones, you might say, what's your favorite food? Would it still be your favorite food if you had it every day this week? What about every day this month? Where is the goodness of it? Is it built in? If so, it would be good every single day, right? We would take the time to tease that out. There are games to play, like even rock, scissors, paper, and then we can talk about if we play those games, what is it like to win every single time? Is that still fun? Now here's when we can all try it together. All right, all you need is your drink. If you don't have one nearby, you can pretend. It's almost the same effect on your brain as if you're actually doing it. All right, so if we have access to cool, clean water, we are very fortunate, right? So let's take a sip from our water or whatever we have to drink. Thankfully, mindfully. How many ways can we explore this water? What does it look like? What does it smell like? How does it taste? What does your tongue do to actually swallow? Can you swallow without moving your tongue? How far can you feel that water as it goes down? We can feel it at some point. Some point we don't feel it anymore. Where is that? It's about the curiosity. And as we drink the water, we can make a wish that everyone in the world has enough clean, clear water to drink, and enough water for growing food, easy access, not to have to walk for miles to get that water. You might wish, may all who are thirsty find clean water. And then the takeaway is when we can't get our favorite drink, but if we still have access to clean water, maybe we can remember how good it tastes after working out in the garden when we're hot, right? So this is a good one to do on a warm day when we've been working. We do it then, oh, that water is so good. May everyone, everywhere, have clean water to drink. Okay, I want to tell you about another activity in this contentment session, which is one of my favorites. We can't try it here, but I want to tell you about it. It was invented at Kadampa Center by one of the leaders there who teaches at a local museum. And she gave everybody a rock, okay, and then has an extra one. And she hands the extra one to the person to her left, sitting in a circle. And that person gets to decide which one they want to keep and which one they want to give away. Now when we say it, we tell them at the beginning, we're going to let you borrow these rocks for this exercise, but you're not going to be able to take them with you. Okay. So this person to my left has 2 rocks. They look at them and they decide, which one do I want to keep? And then they give one away The next person does the same. Which one do I want to keep? And they give one away till it gets back to the leader. So now she has 2 rocks again. And she says, okay, now this time I'm going to offer both rocks to this person. They can choose which one they want. All right, so they choose one. Offer 2, next person chooses 1. So each person gets an opportunity to choose. And we say, check in with your mind. So when you were holding out both rocks, were you thinking, oh, I hope they don't pick that one. I hope they don't pick that one, right? What is that feeling, that grasping, that attachment to this thing you didn't know existed a moment ago? And you've been told you're not going to get to keep, right? So stepping out of the role, that's life, right? We know we're not going to get to keep any of the rocks. And yet we think, oh, I hope they don't choose that one. So this particular exercise shows up over and over in the resource, looking at different aspects. At one point during generosity, we will try to guess which rock the other person would like. We get to choose to practice generosity, but they don't know whether we're doing that or not, right? And isn't that also like real life? So I really love this exercise, and it gets played out more and more. I'm going to give you a moment to move. If you want to stand up, you can. I'm not really in a great position to do that now, so I'm going to kind of pretend. All right, so if you need to move, you can move. This exercise, we're about halfway through for this particular session of the exercises. I won't have time to even tell you about all of them for this one, but that's okay. This is about roots and balance, right? So for those of you who already know what this is, it's going to be a tree pose, right? So a yoga tree pose, basically. So when we introduce it, we're going to ask them a bunch of questions at the beginning. So I will abbreviate this, but it's going to be about, what makes you stable, what do you look to help you balance, things like that. But let's sort of try it if you can, or even if you're sitting, you can put weight on one foot at least, and you can feel the weight on that. Move more weight to one foot. You can feel all 4 corners of your foot touching the ground, right? If you feel ready to take some weight off of the other foot, put it towards your knee. On the other foot, you can. If you want to put out your branches, you can. Even if you're sitting, you can try. You can sort of let your weight go over to that side. You could even put your branches up to the sky. This is not an endurance session, so we're going to come back down already. Give us a chance to put some weight onto the other leg, the other foot. All right, feel that one connecting to the ground. If you want, you can bring up your branches again. And bring them back down. Okay. Now, you find yourselves comfortable again. I'm just going to tell you what the last few exercises are so that we have some time for breakout conversation. There are some exercises in this particular one that's almost like, something I know that Becky Lee has used, where you explore your rooting to the ground and how you might receive from a helpful partner, pushes on the shoulder. There are some exercises related to perfectionism, where we talk about holding an object, letting it fall, seeing how much pressure you need to just hold it. Are there several good enough pressures? Or is there one perfect pressure? What's the value in finding the perfect pressure versus the good enough pressure? Right? And then we take a walk through the garden where we look around and see, which things are sufficing, it's good enough. It doesn't need to be perfect. There are estimation exercises using either water or sand, whichever you have in the garden. And then we find with this particular exercise, maybe instead of this way, what we really want to do is hold it this way. And looking for this perfect pressure might keep us from asking the right question of solving it another way. Okay. Finally, at the end of each of these sessions, there are carry-out activities or carry-out phrases. So for this one in particular, our carry-out phrase, there are several to choose from, whichever one resonates for you. You could choose, one might be, our glass of clean water can be a wish for the world. That might be it. These are designed not to have homework between sessions, but we do want to send them out with an idea that will stick. So there may be, also there is a little echo phrase. For this one, there are several, but you could choose, I have what I need. If I don't, feed my greed. Right? These have also all been translated to Spanish. They're available both ways. You can write me, or you can find it downloadable from FDCW on the Ready, Set, Happy Spanish version, Preparados Listos. And then at the end, there is an invitation or something for them to think about. If they choose to consider during the week, for example, when they see something, if they see a root, to think about, how could a balanced approach serve me right here, right now? So they have something, in this case visual, that might trigger them during the week to help them remember what they were experiencing during that session. Finally, in each one, there are references, lots of links related to all of the things introduced during the session. So you can go off and explore just those things that you're interested in. Okay, so I'm wondering if I can check in with Angela about maybe having a little time amongst yourselves to have a little breakout conversation. If you want to participate, I will give you some idea of things to talk about in the breakouts. Let's see, where have I got that? Do you want to say anything about how to be organized while I put in the chat what the subject will be?
Sure. So I have made 4, 5, 6, so 6 breakout rooms. So looking at the names, so there's one in Spanish and the rest is in English, because I don't recognize many Spanish names. So if you end up in a breakout room where you don't want to be, just please come back to the main room and we'll try to reassign you. And you don't need to go into a breakout room if you don't want to, but you will be invited. And that's all, I think. And I'll be broadcasting what Denise just put there for your conversations.
Now you probably won't be able to see that chat in a moment, so you're going to broadcast them to the rooms also?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Can we maybe do 10 minutes? And then we'll have some time for feedback and questions. Mm-hmm. And I know it will always seem short, so if your group, if you only want to focus on one of these, you can. The first one is to take turns explaining to each other what root shoot bloom is, right? That was my first goal for today, so that you know what it is and you could explain it to someone else so it can reach who it could be helpful to. Another option would be to reflect on any of your experiences or the exercises that we did. What did you learn? What do you want to remember? Or what do you want to share with someone else? And then finally, if you care to consider collaboration and connection, how you might want to use Root Shoot Bloom, who your participants might be, and if there's anything that you need from this community to move forward with that, or something you want to offer. Okay, so whatever appeals to you out of those is fine for conversation. Okay, if you want to stay here, you can. Or if you want to go in the groups, you can. All right, it's all good. See you in a
Okay.
bit.
Okay, let me just okay. All right, so that's it.
I should have asked if they had questions before they left.
Hold on a minute. So,
Everyone is coming back. All right, good. Okay, so we're back. I'm going to invite people. We are, I think, a small enough group that if someone would like to share about their thoughts about any questions or clarifications about what root shoot bloom is, or any reflection on their experience doing the exercises, or any ideas about what they might need for collaboration. And Ruth, I see your hand.
Hello, Denise. Thank you for offering this. It's wonderful. Yeah, I was with Victoria, and I just want to say a big thank you. She shared it, if that's okay, Victoria. She mentioned an exercise of visualizing a petal opening and closing, and I'm going to take that one. So you never know what, for me, I'm not in an environment to apply this yet, but I was saying that, you know, when I am, or if I am, I'm really excited about learning more about your little suggestions. So thank you.
All right, sure, great. Mickey Jo, do you have anything you want to add to what's been said as people are gathering their thoughts about what they want to reflect? You need to unmute, sweetie.
There we go.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. So Denise and I have read through all of this, but this is the first time Denise and I have done this face to face, so just virtually. So this has been wonderful. Hearing your presentation and reflecting also in the group was just marvelous. I do have a community garden close by, and anticipate being able to work with kids at specific work days that would involve local scout troops or church groups that are close by. But I've also got grandchildren who, you know, I welcome into the garden. And so this is quite inspirational on that account too, working with just one or two of my own. And thank you for doing the rock activity. That's one of my favorites. So I'm glad you brought that one.
Yeah, one of your fellow educators generated that one. Yeah, I have to thank her for that. Thank you for all your help and support, Mickey Jo.
A pleasure.
Anyone else have any reflections? Yes, Wendy.
In a way, this is more of a question for you, Denise. I just wonder, you know, what is something you wish you'd known when you first started this work? You know, something you know now that you wish you'd known when you first started.
You mean when I first started working with the guidelines, or with the
specifically with Root Shoot Bloom?
That's a good question. Nothing is popping to mind.
I was just thinking, for those of us who haven't, you know, are at the starting, or certainly from speaking for myself, there isn't a community garden anywhere near, and just starting this, whereas you've, you know, much further along the path. I just wondered, yeah.
Well, I would say that I learned a lot along the way, because I would get ready to explain something, and Mickey Jo helped me with this a lot, actually. And I would realize I thought I understood the science behind it, and I didn't. So I would go off and I would learn on the internet, and I would find another way to think about it, another way to try to explain it more simply, And so I think I wish I had known more about that piece, but I was able to figure it out, as I went along. So I've tried to put those links at the end of each session, the ones that I found useful. So I've weeded out a lot of the things that I felt were not as useful. So hopefully it will save you some time. Does that get at what you wanted, Wendy?
Yes, thank you so much, Denise. Thank you.
This document pulls from many earlier FDCW documents and earlier things I had written, with permission from those folks who created those exercises. So there are things in there from the Pine River Manual, from the Happy Toolbox for Kids, other things that you can download from the FDCW website also. But about, over half of them are new ones too. So collected with that lens.
Yeah,
Oh,
I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was so creative of you, actually, Denise. I always really admire your creativity, coming up with these new things, and you really put it all those exercises in a way that shows how you embody the 16 guidelines, teaching in a very simple way, so we could actually reflect and remember it, because you've made it in a way that we can see it. There's a sound and there's this feeling about it. So it really, I think, it helps us to really get more integrated with each guidelines and be more mindful of it. So thank you.
Sure. I appreciate that, Oilun. You've been looking at this a long time. Yes, Wendy.
Sorry again, just a quickie. I noticed Zoe was in our breakout group, and she lives in London, and she was really wondering if there was anybody to connect with. So I don't know if there is anybody. Your third question was about connection. So she's had to go because her young babe.
Yeah, I see she's not on the call any longer.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I put in the chat, and now might be a good moment for everyone to grab that chat to save it if they want to save it. There is a link to a Root, Shoot, Bloom community Facebook page, which I created. So that we think would be a good way, if you're on Facebook, for you to be able to say, I'm working in London. Is there anyone else interested in London? And you could put that out there on your own. I wouldn't need to go through anyone else. However, if you're not on there, I understand that choice too, then you could send me a note. And if I hear from anybody else, you could write me an email and I could connect you if I hear there's someone else. Or if, as people write me and ask for the whole document, I will keep a list of those, and maybe I could reach out to that community then and say, is there anyone? I won't do that often. I'm too busy, so don't worry. All right. Well, are there any other questions before I'm going to model for you how we might end the session with a reflection and a dedication to help them integrate what they have learned and heard, because I think we don't do that enough in general. We rush through, we have all of these activities, and then we run off to the next thing and no time for it to settle in our body so we can use it later. So any other questions, reflections? Okay, I don't see any indication. So, all right. At the end of that flow chart that I showed, there were parts that we might have the same every time. The ones at the beginning might be the same, different based on the different subjects, and then at the end, these are the bookends. These are the ending pieces. So if you have the same group, you could do the same things at the beginning and the end, build in a little predictability. However, Richard Bloom is designed so that even if you have different people participating every time, it can be self-contained. Here is an example of how you might do a reflection at the end. All right, take a minute to settle yourself comfortably. Think about what we have done here today. What went well for you? We can rejoice for our efforts in that. What have you learned today? What do you know now that you didn't know before? Now you own that. You can embody that. Is there anything that you have learned today that you'd like to remember? Is there something you would like to share with someone else? How do you feel now? Where are you now? May these pieces take root, become a beginning, a shoot, and bloom and fruit. And by way of dedication, to send all this energy back to the universe, may this living garden and all who come along and each who tastes its food grow happy, well, and strong. Back to you, Lorna.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. How beautiful. Thank you, Denise, for leading us through such a considered and compassionate gift of a session. And sharing your experiences, your resources with such a beautiful open heart. I think for me, it's that invitation to be curious really sparked a little light bulb in me. And oh, wow, that's such a simple little phrase, but it's hugely powerful, inviting you to be curious about your world and yourself and how you connect with everything round about you. And what is the UE lesson, which then helps us get to get there more quickly. That reminder for me was just fantastic. So the biggest and warmest glow of being in the embodiment of 16 guidelines, and that for all that means. That's what I'm basking in just now. I just love it. Just that generosity, that warmth from everybody, that just phenomenal. So Denise, thank you for sharing all that you do and being so open and generous. Thank you to everyone who's taken part today and being present and involved. And I wish to extend a deep gratitude to you all, the translators, the volunteers, and all the staff, all the admin, the speakers, everybody for all their hard work in putting this together. And may it be of benefit. And I'm sure that ripple effect, like you were sharing earlier about, Victoria shared earlier about her mum and the mum's gardener being involved. We really don't know how we affect others and how curious people can be, and they dip in, and where that starts, like the root, and what that will blossom into. So the deepest of gratitude. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Lorna. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Curious,
you.
you got it.
Thank
You
you,
did it.
Denise.
Thanks, Denise.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.